This is our time. The main news at this hour. In the studio, Andrei Sinenson. Hello. Since the beginning of September, Russia has used more than 1,300 attack drones, nearly 900 guided aerial bombs, and up to 50 missiles of various types against Ukraine. Since the beginning of September, this was reported by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. According to him, during the first week of autumn, the enemy struck 15 regions. The Kremlin continues to drag out this war, trying to turn diplomacy into an outright farce, the president emphasized. He also supported the position of American leader Donald Trump to unblock diplomacy. Effective restrictions on the trade of Russian oil and gas are needed.
We must increase sanctions pressure, supply weapons to Ukraine, and make it impossible for similar invasions to happen again in the future. A lasting peace requires effective and reinforced security guarantees. We are putting the elements of a reliable peace into the future. Thank you to all the partners who support Ukraine and our people. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
4 people were killed and 1 person was injured as a result of Russian aggression in the Donetsk region. On September 5th, the police recorded more than 2,000 strikes along the front line and in residential areas. 3 people were killed in Siversk. In Beletskaya, the Russians dropped a bomb weighing over 250 kilograms. A civilian was killed. 1 person was injured in Alexeyevo-Drushkovka, which was hit by enemy fire from a Smerch multiple rocket launcher. In total, 18 settlements in the Donetsk region came under fire over the past day. Meanwhile, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russians attacked an ambulance. According to Serhiy Lysak, the head of the regional military administration, 2 districts in the region came under fire in total. In the Nikopol district, the aggressor used artillery and FPV drones, while in the Sinelnikov district, a 40-year-old man was injured by attack UAVs. 3 private houses were damaged. "86 young Ukrainians were able to safely leave the temporarily occupied territories." And Russia. The day before, a group of children was successfully brought back home. During the years of Russian occupation, they faced oppression and Russian propaganda. Now they are safe and receiving all the necessary assistance. In Ukraine, this was stated by the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. According to him, among those who returned were sisters whom the occupying authorities tried to place in an orphanage after their mother died, as well as children who were forced to sing the aggressor's anthem and take part in propaganda meetings with Russian occupiers. There was also a Ukrainian teenager who was registered for military service in the Russian Federation Army. Ukrainian intelligence officers foil Russian plans to break through to the borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region. The video was published by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. In small groups, Russian invaders tried to break through the line of contact and take up firing positions in buildings. Their goal was to amass forces and continue attacking Ukrainian positions. The video shows enemy personnel being destroyed by drones. The Russian soldiers who survived the drone strikes were disarmed. Ukrainian defenders destroyed an enemy Bukan-1 surface-to-air missile system worth $10 million. This was reported by the National Guard. The operation was carried out by the Lazar strike drone unit. The Bukan-1 is a medium-range surface-to-air missile system. The system is capable of simultaneously engaging multiple targets at altitudes from 15 meters up to 22 kilometers and at distances up to 35 kilometers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy rejected the idea of holding talks in Moscow proposed by Russian dictator Putin. He spoke about this in an interview with ABC News. According to Zelenskyy, Putin's proposal looks like an attempt to postpone the meeting. After all, Ukraine is subjected to missile attacks every day. Even the very idea of traveling to Moscow is unacceptable.
We must increase sanctions pressure, supply weapons to Ukraine, and make it impossible for similar invasions to happen again in the future. Lasting peace requires effective and reinforced security guarantees. We are putting the elements of a reliable peace into the future. Thank you to all partners who support Ukraine and our people. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Hard times have come for the Russian economy. This fact is now openly acknowledged in the Kremlin. For example, the Minister of Economic Development of the Federation, Maxim Reshetnikov, said in an interview with a Russian propaganda TV channel that the government is noting, and I quote, alarming signs in the sector. Yulia Granovskaya will explain what this is all about in more detail.
The alarming signs in the Russian economy are now noticeable not only to experts, but also to Russian officials. We see that the inflation situation is favorable, but we have to pay for it with a difficult situation in the economy, said Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Reshetnikov. According to him, the Russian economy is cooling rapidly, machine-building plants are underutilized, and as a result, they're switching to a 4-day work week.
We see the situation as quite difficult, and of course, the consequences of this cooling will be that enterprises will now accumulate a certain amount of losses, primarily due to interest payments. In any case, enterprises will eventually have to pay back these debts, which means that the period of returning to the investment phase of growth, unfortunately, will be pushed further into the future.
Twice in the past week, the Russian government has lowered its GDP growth forecast. Now they've settled on a figure of 1.2%, whereas the initial forecast was 2.5%. In the first 7 months of 2025, the federal budget developed a gap of almost $61.5 billion. This exceeds the deficit planned in the budget law for the entire year by a quarter.
If there are significant changes to the budget parameters in the fall, meaning the deficit gets out of control, and it will, we already know that, then the Bank of Russia will respond, including being ready to reconsider the key interest rate trajectory. So, it's almost certain that on September 12th, just a couple of weeks from now, when we're here discussing this, we'll be commenting on it. On September 12th, the central bank will hold a meeting on the interest rate, and there are storm clouds hanging over them. Because this whole situation with the budget deficit, of course, doesn't give them any room to lower the rate further.
The Russian economy effectively entered a state of technical stagnation in the second quarter of 2025, said Sberbank chairman Herman Gref. According to him, in July and August, Russia's economic indicators were close to zero. He named the high key interest rate of the central bank as one of the main reasons. To reduce inflation, the regulator needs to lower the key interest rate. However, given the growing budget deficit, it will most likely have to be raised again later.
At a rate of 18, to which they lowered it, the whole scheme stops working. That is, deposit rates drop sharply, and people are motivated to take their money out. So, people basically start withdrawing their money from there. And, accordingly, loans become not exactly more accessible, but people get kind of triggered. The thing is, they go and start taking out loans more quickly.
Western sanctions against Russia have deprived it of its usual markets for sales. Today, one of the main buyers of Russian oil is still India, but analysts say even India might leave the game. The reason is pressure from the United States. The Washington Post reports, U.S. President Donald Trump does not want to make a trade deal with New Delhi until India reduces its purchases of Russian oil.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.